Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Top Bins with Twins. This is Luke here.
And Paul.
That was very, very calm there, Paul. I don't know what's going on.
I'm subdued right now. Like we've been in the wilderness for a little bit. We had Mexico, USA a couple weeks ago, Mexico, Canada. But man, I'm really just missing football right now. It's rough out here right now.
It is. There's not too much going on, but if we think about it from the perspective of a player, it's a much needed break. I'm sure from a lot of FPL managers out there who are listening to the pod. Honestly, we probably all needed a little bit of a break too. It wears you down once
it's a roller coaster. It for sure
is. Get around game week 25 or so, and the end isn't
game
quite
week
in
2.
sight.
What the fuck are you talking about?
It just wears you out, especially if you're having a tough season.
Especially when you don't know what you're doing at the beginning. That really wears you down.
Yeah, so
this is why we learn.
I expect you to have lots of vigor and be excited the entire season now, since you know exactly what you're doing, Paul. If that's what you're saying.
Yeah, we'll see. It's a long season, but it's a marathon, right?
Yeah. Well, Paul, how are you doing? How's everything going since we've taken this little break?
Good. Everything's going good. We're, like I said, missing football a lot, but I think I'm doing good right now. What about you?
I love to hear that. No, I'm doing good too. I think I'm starting to get the juices flowing a little bit for FPL, and I can kind of see the star on the horizon. There's a big, apparently, announcement coming on Monday from
I saw
official
that
FPL and then some other content creators that they hand selected to help them reveal the news. But the big question is, are they going to be able to unveil the news with Elon Musk being the ultimate dictator that he is? So,
dude, it's crazy. This is like it's sad to me how much, like, I'll admit this on the podcast. This is dramatically, like, I'm doing good, but it has decreased my mood a lot today because, like, Twitter's how I perceive my news. It's how I get, like, a lot of information on things, and to limit that, that's weird. It's really strange, isn't it?
You just have to wonder what Elon's ultimate goal is, right? Okay, well, we won't use this pod.
Oh, I
dive
do.
into.
I really do, but I'm not gonna say it on the podcast.
That's fine. Be sure to look at Paul's Twitter account. I'm sure he'll be tweeting. It's a question of if you'll be able to see it or not. But be sure to go over there to check that out.
God, did you see that FC Cincinnati goal, Luke?
Yeah, I did.
Holy shit.
So, but getting back to what we're talking about, I think what we want to do today is bring you all some a little bit early, but FPL content, kind of some players that we think are really good transfers from the summer window. And then after we go through that, I think we're going to do a little dabble into some ideal USMNT transfers that we would think would be really good for our boys in red, white, and blue.
Go baby Eagles.
Yeah, so we'll take a little break here, but we will be right back to dive into the FPL transfers that we are most excited for this upcoming Premier League season.
We're fast as fuck, boy. We'll be back quick. All right, to clarify for everybody listening, that was New York City FC, not Cincinnati. I turned the MLS game on, and I saw an orange jersey, and I assumed, and I was wrong. But look up the highlights. It was an absolute banger. What are we talking about today, Luke?
We are talking about FPL content, and I am excited to be wading back into these waters.
They're deep waters, man. They're deep, and there's Meg swinging. They're swimming around everywhere.
It can get quite turbid at times, So yeah, come along for the ride with us.
Let's dive deep. Let's get in a submarine and let's go explore the depths.
As long as we don't use a PlayStation controller to guide us, I think we'll be okay. And let's follow the regulations set out for us. On that bright note, how about you dive into it, Paul?
Okay. So the first transfer I want to highlight is, which makes sense, is probably anybody that knows me listening to this podcast, is I want to highlight Kai Havertz to Arsenal.
Okay, very good. Very good. The first thought that comes to my mind is, how do you see Arsenal lining up with him if he's in their starting 11?
Mm-hmm. So I think the best way this could work for them is you're going to see Kai Havertz line up as an 8 with Odegaard, with them kind of interchanging, tracking back.
Do you put Odegaard on the left or Havertz on the right? Or I guess that's the same thing. Which one do you prefer?
I would prefer Odegaard on the left so that he can use his left foot as much as possible.
See,
but wait. Also,
I push
honestly,
back.
When I say that, the way Odegaard hits the ball across the goal from his left foot, I honestly actually prefer him on the right.
I was about to say I want him
Yeah.
on the right so that he can
That
go
makes more sense.
infield on his left. Kai Havertz, I think, maybe a little bit better with his right. A little more ambidextrous.
Mm-hmm.
I think he'd be better on the left. And yeah, I see that pivot you made there, and I agree. I think
Yep.
Odegaard kind of sliding into that middle where he can play the ball left or right would be a good fit for both of them.
And so the reason I really bring that up is because, I mean, I think we're going to see Havertz have goal production, but I also really think we're going to see him produce a ton of assists for Arsenal because the way he plays in that system, he's going to be interchanging with Odegaard so much, with Saka, with Martinelli. And, like, Arsenal loves the quick little movements. They love the back and forth, all the stuff going on in Arteta's in his new system. He's going to be in great positions the whole time, too.
So for FPL managers out there, what price do you see Havertz coming in at? I think.
Oh shit! I mean, he should be listed as. I mean, he was a forward last year, right?
Yes, he was. I don't think he'll be listed as that this year.
I think he'll be a midfielder.
You keep going, but I will get back to what his price was last season.
I mean, if I had to guess, I mean, he'll probably be like maybe 7.4, 7.5.
So he was 7.5. I think he started out at 7.5.
He started out
5. I think is what he started out.
Okay, he'll probably start maybe a little higher, so like 7.7 would be my guess.
Yeah, that's possible, but I think you have to start at a flat number, like it's a 0.5 or 0.
Okay, we'll go 7.5. We'll stay at what he was last year, I think.
Yeah, 7.5 sounds good to me. I think with the change in system, I could maybe see possibly like a 7. I think anything below that would really excite me.
That's a
that
strong
would be
buy.
something I'd really look at. Okay, well, how do you think he's going to fit pretty smoothly into Arteta's system? And secondly, is Declan Rice coming into that squad something that is kind of impacting your decision to spotlight Kai Havertz?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Like, that's a great way to pose that question. So with Declan Rice at the bottom of this midfield, it's going to allow Odegaard and Havertz to kind of do what they want going forward. Give me a second. Sorry, it's something in my throat.
Clear those airways.
It's something in my throat. But
we want that golden voice coming out.
Yeah, exactly. But with Rice below Odegaard and Havertz, they're going to have the ability to do what they really want. And the good thing about Odegaard and Havertz, though, is they have a motor defensively, and I mean more so offensively, but they don't mind to track back and kind of do some of the dirty work, which is something you want for players like that. So I think it's going to be a great fit with that midfield three. And Havertz he's going to have the ability, like you never really saw it at Chelsea, but the way he played at Leverkusen, like as a cam, as an attacking midfielder, there's something there that Chelsea honestly didn't discover because they just played him as a 9.
Yeah, and that was purely from them not having the 9 that they felt.
Which is their fault completely.
Yeah, it's not on him. He just kind of did what he had to do. And I think, like you're saying, that versatility that we could see from him is something that's very, I think the discrepancy here would be very high. The disparity, would be very high with Havertz because he could be in excellent positions, but he could also be doing some things that do not make him viable for FPL. When we have so many great options, you never know if Havertz is going to, from game to game, I could see him being someone where we just don't know what to expect.
Yeah, no, absolutely. He's going to, I think he's just going to ball out in that midfield, honestly. And I think it's going to,
I hope so.
Honestly, like I said earlier, I think it's going to be assist more so than goals. But I mean, those are still contributions, FPL points right there.
Yeah. Is there any world in which you would consider Declan Rice to come into your team?
I mean, possibly. I think if you see him hit maybe like 2 weeks in a row where he has contributions, and if we see exactly how he's playing in their system where he's venturing more forward, because whenever he played for West Ham, he was very patient about how he made forward runs, and he would really wait for the exact right time. And he has a pretty good instinct when it comes to going forward and falling to stuff at the top of the box. I think he could be viable depending on how far Arteta lets him off his leash, per se,
Yeah, I think that's something really important to note with Declan Rice, that his ability to progressively move the ball, whether it's passing or dribbling, both of those combined with his defensive ability is what makes him this 100 million-pound man, right? Breaking that English transfer record for biggest transfer ever. And that's something that's important to note. He does have that capability to, benefit Arsenal on both sides of the ball. So it's something to watch. I don't know. It would definitely it would be some time before I'd consider him as an FPL asset, but someone to perhaps keep an eye on. I don't know. You never know.
I mean, look at FPL last year. How many people we had pop up that we never would have thought, so.
Yeah. Sully Marsh.
We'll see.
My man.
Your dude.
Let me tell you, he has to be on every single podcast we do. And that is my life's goal.
Present.
That for every single podcast of Top Bins with Twins, Sully Marsh gets a mention at some point.
He lives by the Winston Bishop theory of just be there.
Just be there.
He's constantly there. He's just in the room staring at us. We
I'm
don't
just
even
in that
know.
zone, just in that zone.
He's here.
In that area.
All right, Luke, let's hear your who's your first transfer that you're excited by?
All right. So the first one that I'm excited by, and I wasn't even initially that concerned about this, but after doing some research and diving into it, I'm excited by Dominique Soyazabal. Do you know who this is?
Please explain.
So
I'm not sure I do.
He is coming from RB Leipzig, and he is going to Liverpool.
Okay, yeah, I didn't recognize.
Yes,
yeah. Okay,
the pronunciation is very. He's Hungarian, so if I mispronounce that, I really do apologize. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing the best I can here.
No, you did good. I know who you're talking about now. We're on the same page.
And after watching his highlights, he's so creative with the ball at his feet. He's excellent at going at defenders at pace, and his passing stats are fucking ridiculous.
Really?
As opposed, he's in above the 95th percentile in over about 5 different categories according to FB Brief.
Pretty impressive.
His passing is insane, but he strikes the ball insanely well. So on set pieces, he would be someone that would be contending for the set pieces. I assume it's going to be Trent still, just because of the way that he's been there so long and everything. But
what about McAllister though?
Yeah, exactly. He'd be competing with all of them, so I don't think he would kind of work his way into that position. At least not for a while.
I would love to watch their training.
Yeah, no, it would be insane. It would be.
Who do you decide? Really,
it would be a technical display, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But other things that kind of excited me is I think that his non-penalty XG is not really that great when compared to other similar attacking mids or wingers. But his XA and his assist are above the 80th percentile. So I expect him to be producing assists, creating opportunities, and being in those really good positions for Liverpool to create, play Salah through, play, Nunez or Gakpo, Diaz with him being back as well. I think he's going to be in those really good kind of creative, forward-thinking positions. And something that I've seen is, with Trent kind of tucking in possession, Liverpool's probably going to play that 3-2-2-3 probably, right?
Essentially, yeah.
And I think he's going to be in the upper 2, right? In that, if you look at it as, a WM basically, right? So the upper 5 would be a W. In the bottom 5M, he'd be playing in the upper W at the bottom. Do you track that? Do you know what I'm saying?
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Well, what number would you define it as for people out there?
Like an inverted, 10 almost, I guess.
So like a 10 that drops deeper, essentially,
with a corresponding 10 next to you.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
You
that makes sense. Just so people out there,
so you can maybe kind of picture that in your mind.
Yeah.
Just kind of tucking underneath the striker, a little bit deeper than traditional number 10. So I think he's going to slide into the starting 11. Honestly,
I think he has to. I mean, for how much they paid for him and how much he can offer to that team, especially I'm not interrupting your whole spiel here, Luke. I apologize.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
But it's really going to be interesting to see what happens with Liverpool's youngsters like Curtis Jones with what's his face? Oh, the ginger dude, Harvey Elliott.
Harvey Elliott.
To see the positions that they're going to play or where they're going to play, if they're going to play. Like it's gonna be Liverpool's brought in a lot in their midfield, which I think they needed.
Well, I mean, think about it. Curtis Jones was on a heater at the end of the season.
Yeah, no, he was a
And,
great FPL asset.
Jules from FPL family, he was the one, he brought him in and got,
Yeah.
incredible results from him for those last 3-4 weeks. But I think you'll see Liverpool here. Liverpool is pushing, right? They are making some key signings that are going to increase the level of their squad. I think there's still a couple more they could make. But Liverpool I think they're back. I think we'll see a reinvigorated kind of, there's going to be a lot of learning to do, kind of as time goes on. And they've got to do it quick. But at the same time, I think they're going to be very viable from an FPL perspective.
So this is interesting. Like, let's just ride what we're going on right now. Where do you think Liverpool finish at the end of the year?
I would say top 4 probably.
Think top 4?
If I had to say right now, and that's difficult because there's so many more transfers that need to be made.
Yeah. We don't have to do full out predictions now, but I'm
players
just
in,
curious.
players out. I think they make top 4, and given that they're Europa League, they're going to be in Europa League. I think they can make a big push in that tournament, right?
Yeah,
because
they should.
what you
should.
see now is with them bringing these players, that pushes other people back the depth chart, and thus allowing them to have more availability for Europa League, all these other English
It's a
competitions.
depth question, yeah, really.
So I really do. I like what the signing here, and as I said earlier, I did not know I was going to like it this much, but I think he's going to be a great signing for them. At least, whenever a player signs for that high of a fee, you do hope that they're successful, because whenever that doesn't succeed, a lot of people just point to that price tag and say, well, you weren't worth it.
Well, you suck. Which
Unfortunately.
is never the case, honestly, with these level of footballers. Nobody sucks,
Yeah.
It's context.
I think one more thing that I kind of wanted to highlight is, as I said, his passing is incredible. He completes the majority of the passes that he attempts, and it seems like he is completing a high number of passes per game as well. So it's not just a small sample size. But I also do like that he's not necessarily extremely high, but as opposed for tackles, interceptions, blocks, and clearances, he does rank really well when compared to other comparative players. So Liverpool like that aggressive press, get high up the pitch, force errors in the other opponent's half. And I think he's going to assist them in this. It's something that they really lacked last season. So I think with him, we'll kind of see an increase in that as well. And Liverpool is going to be, a fun team to watch. They're going to score a lot of goals, I think.
Sounds like Anfield's going to love him.
I think so.
It sounds like he's going to be a fan favorite very soon. So keep your eye out for him.
I will, yeah. But Paul, do you want to go ahead and lead on to your second FPL asset that you're interested in?
Yeah. So this one involves one of my favorite teams in the Premier League.
Chelsea.
Funny. No, Brighton Hove Albion. So I think Mo Hood is going to be honestly a very viable FPL option for them.
Okay, why do you think that? And you can look at our Twitter account at TopBinTwins to see the thread that we've talked about this. But Paul, build upon that. Why do you think this?
I think it's really as simple, like it's kind of like a copy and paste. He's gonna go straight into McAllister's role, and I think he has the ability to play that role to a T. There's maybe certain things that I think slightly he may be worse at striking the ball than McAllister, and Luke also has his takes on McAllister, how he strikes the ball, but I don't think he'll be on pens, so that was a big thing about McAllister. He was on pens, but he's going to be part of that triumvirate, you could say, at Brighton, and I still think with the Derby there, they're going to produce next year, and they're going to be viable assets for us to look at, and he's going to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, I do like that. He is definitely an interesting player who is kind of, it's really interesting. He was in the Bundesliga and he makes this move to the Premier League and one of the up and coming Premier League teams, but it's kind of like his opportunity at a personal renaissance.
Yeah,
almost, because at Dortmund he wasn't getting the time. And how crazy
he was in and out. He was in and out for
he
like
had
6 years. Yeah,
there were some injury issues and everything, but this move could be like his next step up. And it's crazy that, he didn't play at Dortmund and then couldn't slide right into the starting 11 at Brighton. So
I think he will.
it's an interesting dichotomy there with him.
Yeah, so he actually in 2015, 2016 had 5 goals and 8 assists. And in that Brighton midfield, I think it's entirely possible that he could equal that total or produce more, which would make him somewhat of a viable FPL asset if you time it right,
Oh, I completely agree. And kind of to build off of what Paul was saying, one of the best things that we kind of highlighted on our Twitter thread is that he. I mean, let's be honest. McAllister outperforms Dahoud in his expected goals and goal contributions.
I mean, but the PKs also alter that a lot too.
Right, yeah. But I think where Dahoud is really going to find success is that chances created and XA. I think those numbers will be the indicators to look at him and say, is he a valuable FPL asset? If he's checking the boxes in those chances created and also XA areas, he is someone that I think could be a great early asset for us to look at.
Yeah, honestly, the bottom line with him is if Brighton produced the same way they did last year, which I think they will, he's going to be part of that, and he's going to be viable for that,
Yeah, he really will be. I think that's a good shout there.
Yeah. All right, Luke, who is your next person you want to shed a spotlight on?
So the next person I want to shine a spotlight on is Nicholas Jackson.
Oh,
Did I steal your next one?
No, actually you didn't, but it's closely associated. My next one is.
Okay. So Nicholas Jackson, if you all do not know, he was at Villarreal in La Liga last season. He ended up with 12 goals and 4 assists. He had an XG of 8.56, so he overperformed that XG by 3.44.
Love to see that.
That kind of rings similarly to maybe perhaps Darwin Nunez?
Question mark.
Because the previous season, and let's
the give and
let's
take.
look at this. The previous season he had 0 goals with an XG of 0.81, so not a lot of playing time. That sample size might be a little skewed there. But if we look, I mean, it's something to think about, right? He was on fire last season. He ended up being the player of the month for La Liga at the very end of the season. He was the best player in La Liga, arguably.
And he's young too, right? I think he's 22.
Yeah, he's very young.
Yeah.
So Chelsea could be getting an excellent striker here. But we'll see. There's a lot of risk associated with this move because there's a lot that's not known about him.
They paid, I think, $30 million for him?
Yes, they did pay $30 million for him.
It's a risk. I agree. I think it is a major risk. But in this young Chelsea team, who knows,
And if we look a little deeper at his underlying stats, so when compared to other forwards, in his non-penalty goals, he is in the 94th percentile, and that's over the past year. So he is outperforming every other forward in the top 5 leagues in the 94th percentile. That's pretty impressive.
Pretty impressive stat right there.
And he also is in the 89th percentile for assist and then 87th for expected assist. So with him, I think a big indicator for us is going to be A, is he starting? And B, what is his price? If both of those boxes are checked, he is going to be a mainstay in a lot of teams, I think, especially if Harry Kane's gone. If Harry Kane makes a move out of the Premier League, then we'll see a lot of people scrambling, and I think you'll see a lot of Haaland in teams regardless of what his price is.
I think another thing that really matters a lot for that, Luke, is we're going to have to see Chelsea's form and how they set up too.
Well, I mean, Pochettino always plays a 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, but I mean, to see, and we're going to have to see how much they produce too, because I don't think that's somebody that you start with week 1. To me, that there's so many questions there. I think there's better assets for probably that are going to be at his price point that would be better.
I can tell you right now, I have not analyzed matchups. I have not looked at, predicted, FDR for certain teams. Mm-hmm. All of this I'm waiting to do later on because I want to see who's going to be where. I want to know
when the pieces
what
settle.
what
Dust settles.
players, what pieces teams have. I'm so excited to do that, and I'm after doing this pod, I'm itching to get into it, but I'm gonna make myself wait.
You junkie.
I know, right? Just got to push it
I'm
off,
there with
push
you,
it
though.
off. But what I'm trying to say here, right, is I think kind of just off the top of my head here, I'm probably going to have a Chelsea asset in my team in game week 1 because I see a lot of value there that people will easily swing into if they put in a good performance in the first couple of weeks. But I want to have that in my team beforehand to kind of have that little extra advantage there. So I think, someone from the starting 11 that I feel really good about will be in my team, starting the first game week.
So like that's a great pivot point for us. I think Jackson's a very viable point, but I think Nkuku is the Chelsea asset to go for this year in FPL.
Yeah, I think that's a good shout.
I think this man's gonna absolutely cook. If Chelsea, like, I could see this team being like, I think they're gonna somewhat be top 6 underdogs, but I think they're probably gonna score a lot of goals on their potch. And they're going to have, like, I mean, if you look at their setup, like, so let's say you have Jackson up top, you have Mudryk on the left, you have Nweke on the right.
Sterling will probably start.
Sterling on the right, most likely.
I think Sterling on the left and Midwake on the right is what I think. Yeah,
maybe, possibly, I don't know. But then you throw Nkuku under that, like, he's going to have so many chances to create and to have, like, quick little 1-2s with everybody out there, like. He's going to be a FPL. It wouldn't surprise me if this year he may be somewhat of a decent FPL asset, but next year, especially once the system gets flowing, they get better pieces in, he's going to be an FPL monster in the Premier League. I think he's going to be somebody that we can't miss out on.
What is going to determine his viability for my team is price.
Yeah,
right?
Price is a big question.
Price, if he comes in being around like anywhere upwards of £9 million, I'm really going to be thinking twice about it. I hope that FPL introduces changes to the captaincy or vice captaincy.
Wait till Monday.
Maybe some rule changes. I think that's a new format within FPL is what I'm
like a
thinking.
New layout, like the layout of the app. Is that what
No. I think there's going to be a new like mini competition within FPL. So they introduced where you have the generic FPL where you have a set budget, you pick your team. They also introduced FPL drafts where you could do like for Americans that are listening, it's very similar to like fantasy basketball where you have a league, you draft people, and then each player gets points for you for the week. But I think they're going to introduce a new format to where it's something slightly similar to what's going on, but different, and hopefully bring in new people as well.
You know what this podcast cares about?
We're
strictly not strictly
hard FPL.
We want FPL, man.
Original
This
content.
is what we want. This is what we live for. This is what we live and die for.
I really hope that they change everything with Twitter because, how are we going to make deadline transfers if we don't know who's in the starting 11?
I know. There's going to be no leaks.
How are we going to live without videos of people speculating if that's Marcus Rashford getting off the bus or not?
Dude, we're going to have to download WhatsApp. We're going to have to get on the WhatsApp group chats.
Let's dive into Reddit. I mean, we look at it every once in a while here and there, but
man, I don't know.
What's the new up and coming social media? I mean,
somebody please make one. Like, honestly, fuck Elon Musk. Let's get a new app exactly like Twitter going and replace that shit because I want let's get that content out.
So Paul, I have an idea. I was sitting outside today. Yeah. And just enjoying, the nice, scorching hot Florida day.
Florida sun.
And I was sitting by a nice little view of a lake and everything. And to my right, there was a little parakeet just wandering around the grass, having a great time, looking for some grub or, whatever he could find to eat.
Hell yeah.
Let's make a new social media app called Parakeet. I think that would thrive. And we just do the same icon, but we make it green. I think this is our $1 million idea.
Listen, their lawyers would sue the hell out of us, but I'm here for it.
Well, maybe we change the icon slightly to where it's a little skinnier because parakeets, they're not big, bulky dudes.
They're a little smaller. Honestly, if we could probably get an AI to design that easy and simple for us.
or we could do it. Yeah.
I mean, we probably could, but I
Yeah.
mean, I
Who
think
knows?
the AI would do it a lot faster than us.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Paul, do you have a third person that you're kind of thinking that could be great for FPL? Or...
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
This
go ahead.
one really hurts me, and I think it's an asset to kind of.
Ooh, Mason Mount.
Shut up, Luke! I was getting there. God damn it, man!
Okay,
you ruined my
well,
whole spill.
wow, sorry, I ruined those 5 seconds there for you, but keep going. Sorry.
5 seconds, really? That was at least 30 seconds.
How many times have you said that?
No, I knew what I was walking into.
Sure, you did.
I had to for the pod. But I think Mason Mount, if we look at him as an asset in this United team, they need a midfielder that can produce goals. And he's somebody that the way he strikes the ball, the way he honestly his work ethic, I think in this United team, he's gonna find a way to start. He's gonna be present. And he's gonna be there for United. And it depends on I'm not sure how he's gonna line up in Ten Hag's system, honestly. Like where he'll exactly play. But he really is one of the best ball strikers, and his first touch, dude, is magical. Like
He is.
It really is.
His, the little back heels he does, the way he flicks the ball on, and he does not always get it right. Right, the margin of difficulty in what he does is so finite that he's not always going to get it right, but he has that ability with the ball that just it seems like it's in instinct or intrinsic to who he is as a person.
And I mean, this is a guy that in 21-22 had 11 goals and 10 assists. Like, he can produce results for you as an FPL manager. He has to be in the right circumstances. And yes, last year, he had a down year. It was not a great year for Mason Mount. He had injuries. He was in and out of the team. It just was not a good year for him. But I firmly believe that this is going to be one of their biggest regrets, letting him go after Christian Pulisic, of course. But Mason Mount is in this United team. I think he's going to totally embrace the villain role, and he's just going to fly with it.
Imagine the scenes. They go to Stamford Bridge. It's his first match back. He gets a brace with the Manchester United crest on.
It really kind of hurts me, honestly. Like, Mason Mount, he seems so likable from everything I've seen about him.
After spending so much time with Chelsea, I mean, literally growing up through their youth academy, it is really unfortunate to see them treat him this way and not give him the money he deserves, just purely because they feel like they have to get the money back in after everything they've spent. It's just, I agree. I think it's a big mistake.
Yeah, and to me, the thing, like, a little soapbox here, but all these Chelsea fans that have turned on Mason Mount after him giving so much to this club since he was 6 years old is absolutely insane. And it, honestly, I'm not going to lie, it speaks to the fan base. It really does. And honestly, we see the negative stuff. We see all the stuff. There's obviously good Chelsea fans out there. But I mean, how are you going to turn on somebody that's literally given so much to your club, and after one bad year, your club decided to sell him?
One positive that came out of today. It's very difficult to be toxic on Twitter if there's no Twitter.
Yeah, if you can't look at tweets, you don't know.
Inversely, it could be good for some fan bases out there. That,
probably be good for me and
there's not a lot of this, cultural systemic toxicity that probably negatively impacts a lot of people. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's what Elon intended. Maybe he read through Chelsea Twitter and said, "I've had enough."
Elon is pro #touch grass. This man's all about it. He just has a roundabout way of getting there.
I guess so. But I agree with that Mason Mount shout. I think
he's gonna kill it.
My question to you, though, whenever you were kind of describing this, so very simply, what price do you see him coming at? And B, what position do you see him playing for United? What formation do you see them with him starting?
I think he's going to be like probably 6.5 or 7.
Okay, so that would be a price drop for him.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at their midfield, I think it's probably going to take him maybe 5 or 6 weeks in the season to really lock down a spot. And for a speculative asset like that, you're probably going to see a little bit lower of a price.
I disagree. I think he's going to start game week 1. But
I mean, I think
who's
he
he competing
should, but
with?
I also think they're going to price in
Who's
the
he
speculative
competing with?
nature.
Right? Speculative nature, right? Are you talking about like his price there?
Yeah, but I mean, think about the team last year. They have Casemiro, Eriksson, and then basically Bruno on top of them. Do you think Eriksson's not going to start?
Yes, I think Mount will start over him.
I mean, I think he should, but I'm not 100% sure as an FPL owner that Mason Mount's nailed on to start week 1. Like we really don't know going into week 1.
It will be interesting if we see United make that pivot to kind of generally what everyone else is kind of popularly doing in the Premier League, where they slide a right back or left back in the midfield. And then at that point, you would have a double pivot of right back, left back with Casemiro. And then you push Bruno and also Mount forward in kind of
Mount
that
thrive.
WM shape as I
Yeah.
was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that would be something that would be good for them.
Yeah.
It's just a
I'm
question
there
of,
with you, dude.
do you push Wan-Bissaka does not fit that profile, so maybe Luke Shaw. I don't know. It would be interesting. I'm not quite sure on that one.
I think honestly, if I were United, I would start Shaw on the left, and then the two center backs, and then Dallo, and invert him if that's the formation you want to go with. And then push other people forward. I wouldn't start Wan-Bissaka because he doesn't cater to that. That's not what he does.
Yeah, but defensively you're losing a lot in his pace, especially if you're going up against a really good left winger.
No, absolutely.
You're missing out on a lot there. So it's something to keep an eye on.
It's the
Continue
current climate,
that dialogue as we go forward into the FPL season. Anything else you want to say on Mason Mount before we wrap on that, Paul?
No, I think I've said everything. I'm good.
All right. Well, for my final FPL asset,
Surprise me,
that I am interested in, you're not going to be surprised by this one. So I initially was thinking that I wanted to do what's his name? I just drew a blank. Brighton's new striker they signed from Watford.
João Pedro.
João Pedro. I was thinking of
I
him,
had him on my notes.
but in my mind I thought, no, why would I do that? There's Evan Ferguson there. I think Evan Ferguson is going to be a mainstay in a lot of teams, especially if he is able to stick around that price tag.
What do you think his price will be?
So last season he was like 4.5, I think.
There's no way he's 4.5 this year.
No, that's what I'm saying. So that's the baseline. I think that we could see maybe like a £2 million increase. So maybe like 6.5, maybe seven's a lot.
I think 6. I think 6 is the number.
So like in the 6.5 to 6 range,
Mm-hmm.
if he's anywhere below 6, he will be in my team. Because
Yeah.
I think Danny Welbeck is always very frustrating because De Zerbi rotates a lot. You don't know exactly who he's going to start. But in his choice 11, I think Ferguson is his starting striker. So Evan Ferguson, he's in the 80th percentile in non-penalty XG, non-penalty goals, shots, pass completion.
He does
blocks.
everything you would want from a 9.
Right, like
Everything.
his play is. There's a reason why everyone's saying that he's just amazing because he's incredible. The way he strikes the ball.
19 this year, right?
Yeah,
it's stupid.
It's impressive.
It really is.
The talent is there, and I think it's time for him to have a breakout season. Last year was his kind of coming onto the stage season. I think next season, if he stays healthy, we could easily see 15 to 20 goals from him.
Whoa.
I
15 to 20? You think so?
Yeah. So this past season, he had 6 goals and 2 assists.
That's a large spike, Luke.
So
I mean, I
listen.
believe in his ability.
So he had
it's a large spike.
He had 19 appearances, right? In that time, he played 950 minutes. That is not a lot, right? He had 6 goals and 2 assists. If you double his minutes, say he gets, let's say, 1,800 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? That's
12.
Literally what? Like
12 goals, 4 assists.
Yeah, exactly. Say he plays full 90 minutes for 20 games out of the season. I think he can get to 15 goals. His goal contributions could easily exceed 20.
Okay,
I would not be surprised.
Honestly, I kind of push back at your point. But he's somebody too that I see totally exceeding their XG because the way he hits the ball, the way he finds space, and the way he creates for others too. Like he is elite in so many categories.
But that's the crazy thing is that last season he did not significantly overperform his XG.
Yeah,
his XG was 5.87, 5.67,
which is right
and
around.
he ended up with 6 goals. So he overperformed by 0.33.
I think you can just honestly count that down to minutes, realistically.
Yeah, and the injury from Liverpool's CDM, who I will not name because he who must not be named.
We won't talk about it on this podcast.
That's a really kind of really. I don't really mean that honestly. He's not that bad.
Don't walk back your point like that. Don't walk it back.
There are other players.
Stand with that, King.
There are other players I would happily make that comparison. This person, who I will not name, they don't deserve that title. So it is what it is. We'll move on. Okay. I'm excited to see Ferguson play, and De Zerbi is always exciting to watch. If Brighton is on, you can guarantee they will be on my main TV.
Yeah, I'm there with you, dude. They're fun to watch play.
They're fun to watch. I haven't even looked at their schedule yet, so here in about a week or two, whenever we're just really getting ready for the season, I will be looking at Brighton's schedule to see exactly what to expect.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I think that's kind of my last FPL highlight I want to make. One last question for you, Paul, before we wrap on everything FPL.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the announcement they're going to make on Monday with the other kind of content creators and from FPL itself?
What I really hope it is if they give us the option to have a CDM or other players that can contribute points for clean sheets or different. Honestly, I just want different ways to produce points in a team because I want to see the template teams broken down into a multitude of ways to create FPL points over 1 week,
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Like to me, I mean, like I feel like literally last year you could have logged into Twitter, you could have looked at probably 10 FPL creators and been like, okay, these are what these guys are going with because they know the exact numbers, they know exactly who they want to play where. And honestly, to me, like what's the fun in that, Like we want to have creativity. We want to be able to build a team that's different than other people,
I agree with that, right? And the idea of having, CDMs have value. That is a extremely important position on an actual football pitch. But in FPL, there's no value there. Right? No. There's no point in having someone in your team like that. I mean, Rodri or John Stones might be the best option out of any CDM.
Look at Tyler Adams. Like, you're telling me this guy that had so much viability to Leeds, and you saw the drop-off whenever he got hurt to Leeds, and honestly, probably one of the main reasons they got relegated. Like, that position should have, I'm not saying an equivalent value to a striker or anybody else, but I mean, it should provide a certain value
to a
team.
Intuitively, what that makes you think is how do you price in that value? Where do you get the points from them? Would you say it's tackles? Is it interceptions? Because I feel like that's kind of a gray area, right?
I think the main thing is there's like a 1A and 1B. It's tackles and then clean sheets.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Like a CDM should probably have like one less point in a value of a clean sheet than a defender to me. Like it's a step down, but it's also not valued the same way that like a regular midfielder or like an attacking midfielder is.
Right.
But that also brings up a lot of gray area too. So
that would completely turn up FPL upside down, but in a good way, right? Because I think that's an area that you and I majorly struggled in over the past season. Is after the World Cup, there was a template team that a lot of content creators pushed and a lot of people copied, right? Mm-hmm. And those people did really well. But if you did not have that template team, if you didn't have that template team, you're in big trouble, right? Yeah. Because the vast majority of people have that team that, statistically makes sense. but there's no creativity in that. There's no diversity. There's no. I mean, you just copy paste, and it's that easy.
Yeah, and honestly, like, I'm gonna take a second. The thing about that too is like, do you cave to the team that's the most analytical team, or do you play what you want to play? And like, if what you want to play kind of caters to the content creator team, like there's times that like I didn't play that because I didn't want to like I'm on Twitter all the time, like same as you, same as a lot of people probably listen to this
Not
podcast.
anymore.
I mean, we were whatever, and I'm sure it'll just move to something else, so it's going to be the same concept. But do you cave to that, or do you like somewhat? Part of me, it feels like not like cheating, but it's kind of like, is it like viable? You know?
That's the issue, I think, is that it is inherently viable for people to continue to have template teams that are very popular within the community to continually follow. But where I struggle is very similar to you, where it's like I don't necessarily want to ride the wave. I would personally rather take a risk on a player that I think that, you know, passes eye test for me, some of the key metrics and data that I look at for players. If they check all those boxes, I'm more than happy to go out and, you know, take a chance on them. I'm not just going to, you know, copy paste all my starting 11 and my captaincy and triple captaincy, all the chip usage. But through this past year, I have learned that there is something to be said for having a portion of the template, having people who protect your rank, and, you know, almost acting a little more defensively with your team. And I hate to say it, but I think it's a little necessary at times, right? Because if you don't do that,
you're behind the curve.
You're struggling.
You're behind the curve.
And if you're, you know, if you're looking for that position where you want to be someone who's, you know, consistently in the top 100K every year consecutively, you have to play defensively if you want to make it to that point. So
yeah,
there's going to be a lot of things that, you know, I think both of us need to work on in this upcoming season.
No emotion.
We've learned
no
a lot.
emotion. No emotion at all.
And that's probably one of my key takeaways is that sometimes it's better to act defensively as much as we might not want to.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right. Well, look, I think that's a good little FPL segment.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's really great to be talking about it. I could keep going for another couple hours, frankly, but
yeah,
I think
we don't want the pod to be that long,
you know,
man.
We don't want to wear people down too early. And there's
We'll
a lot
get
of
there.
stuff that we'll get to later on. So this is a good stopping point for now.
Yeah, but let's take a little break and we'll be back in a couple of minutes and we'll talk a hashtag little USMNT stuff.
Ooh, very nice.
And
USA, baby.
We'll dive into that, into the baby Eagles, but we'll see you in a little bit.
Insert eagle screeching.
Top Bins with Twins, Luke. We're back with one of my favorite segments here. We're going to talk about some baby eagles and the places they should fly off to and build their nest.
Oh, let's hear about it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so we're going to start off with one of our newest baby eagles, Florian Balogun.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the perfect landing spot for him.
Ooh, let's hear it. Go for it.
I think it's going to be the Eagles of Crystal Palace.
Oh, very interesting. There has been some interest out there.
There's been interest.
From Premier League teams, and Crystal Palace is one of the names that's kind of risen to the top there. So why do you think that's a good fit for him?
So I think, first off, if we look at Crystal Palace as a team, they have a ton of young talent everywhere. They have people that can produce. They have creative players, really. We've seen it live ourselves. Like, they have a bunch of players that really, from a level of production and creativity, would mold well with flow. And I think it's time for them to pivot away from the static 9 role.
Right.
Where you have a big 9 up top that once crosses in all this stuff. I think if you look, especially like Eze, Elise, the way they play, let's put somebody up top that can take the ball, play off them, and then play them through, and then also make forward runs to use their ability to hit the ball forward. I mean, that's one of their best assets, and I feel like it's really not being utilized at for a level of Palace.
Yeah, and what I'm hearing over all of this, right, is versatility is what Balogun offers to Crystal Palace. He has the
Mm-hmm.
ability to do, not quite as well, but do the build up play that those big, strong, bulky strikers do for them. But correspondingly, he also has the ability to run in behind, to stretch a defense in a way that that all of their strikers really just don't have, frankly.
Yeah, and one of the big things about Ballo too, or Flo, whatever we want to call him, whatever we're gonna go with, he has the speed to run in behind, as we saw against PSG. Like that goal he scored to finish the game off against them, elite speed, absolutely elite speed. But then he also has the strength. If we see the goal against Canada, this first U.S. goal, he has the strength to hold off defenders to make space for himself on balls played through.
Yeah.
That's I think in the Premier League, like he'll be tested, but that's a great role to see him grow, and it's a great role for Palace to have him in. I think it's a great meeting of people. I mean, if you look at his stats from last year, I mean, he had 37 appearances, he had 21 goals and 2 assists,
Yeah.
and yes, he was on PKs. That's always a question mark or an asterisk beside goals. But he has an ability to just score goals.
He does, right? And I think one of the things that I think when I think of Ballo, right, I think to Gundogan, right, with City and his ability to time it into a,
To
into a
arrive.
box, right? And that's something that Pep talked about a lot with Gundo is that he heard Johan Cruyff saying that, one of the most important things in football is timing and knowing space, having that awareness to, fill the space when the time is right. And I think that's what Ballo has. He has that awareness of, okay, this is the space I need to be filling at this moment. And, we saw that even in the brief time he spent with the U.S. over the summer so far. Like, he was making those runs at at seemingly the right time. There's that connection's not there with his teammates quite yet. But you could see it growing. And he has that innate ability to arrive at the right time. And I think that's what Palace needs. They need they need a striker who's going to be in the right position at the right time, that can offer versatility in the way that he plays.
Yeah, and a little caveat too that we can add to this that I think Palace fans out there, if they're listening to this, would love to know, is that he also has the motor to track back, to do things that other nines may not want to do. I mean, if you look at the highlights of the U.S.-Mexico game, the reason why Weston McKennie got a red, literally, if you track it back, was because Ballo got back and literally took the ball off.
Yeah.
Was it Montez? Is that who it was?
That sounds right.
I think it was Montez. He took the ball off him, and Montez was so frustrated he kicked the shit out of him, and then everything popped off. I mean, he's gonna do things to provide for his team, and it doesn't have to be goals or assists, and that's something that can be measured, but it's not something that's highlighted as much.
Right.
And that's very important to a team like Crystal Palace that operates on margins, and he would be a perfect fit for them, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Luke, who's your
do we know next? Is Roy Hodgkins coming back? Is that
I saw a tweet before Twitter fell that he was.
Okay, that's
but
very
that's not
good.
confirmed. That's not confirmed though. So
in my mind, I don't see them being in the relegation fight. I see them maybe competing for upper table,
mid-table,
probably
upper mid-table.
That's what I think. That's what I see for them. Maybe someone goes on a heater and they kind of carry them to get a really good run of points. Who knows? But I kind of, when I was trying to make this choice between what U.S. players I wanted to look at, I was stuck between two players, and then ultimately I saw a really nice club fit for both of these two players. But I'll include a stipulation here, right? So there are links of Tyler Adams going to Villa. I saw a couple other teams thrown out there. There was maybe some United interest, or Brighton was a while back, but I haven't seen anything else about that.
This podcast loves that. Let me tell you,
I would love that, but it seems like Villa might be the best fit. So let's just assume that Tyler Adams goes to Villa, and that's a fit that I love. I think he'll be great there. Unai Emery is really kind of revolutionizing Aston Villa and everything that they're doing.
He's done a wonderful job so far.
I love that. I think he can go there, grow. He'll be playing too, I think, frankly. So the club that I'm thinking is Borussia Dortmund, and I am thinking that Weston McKennie would be a great fit there. There were some links of Edson Alvarez making that move to Borussia Dortmund.
That has fallen apart, according.
That has kind of dissipated from what I've seen. And my thought process here is I think Dortmund are going to be reeling a little bit. You know, they were so close to capturing the Bundesliga for the first time in a very long time. And I think they kind of need new blood. Someone to kind of reinvigorate, to play with a flair that, you know, is kind of fitting of their club, right? They're a fun team to watch. They're forward attacking, and Weston McKennie can do that while also being very important in the defensive half.
I think the main thing that like he would provide to them is grit. Like
he provides an extra edge,
like something more that Dortmund really needs, and I think I think he may be a little old for Dortmund. But that's a player that could really benefit them, and also it would benefit himself too.
Right, it's a little outside. It's a little outside the box. It's something that I think I don't actually really see it happening. It's just in my dream world, I see that as a good fit. Somewhere where he can go. He's in the starting 11. He is benefiting his club. He's getting that playing time. And then from there, maybe a year or two from now, he makes that move to somewhere like Tottenham, who is another club I was thinking for him, where he'd be a really good fit.
You think so?
I actually do. Yeah, I think Tottenham could really benefit from having McKennie, but I don't think that's going to happen. So
I don't think at this point it would. But I honestly, I think he was rumored to Tottenham maybe like last summer.
Yeah, it was pretty recent. It was pretty recent over the past year or two.
I think that was off the World Cup qualifying, whenever he was just balling out before his injury with Juve. But hey, Weston needs to find a good home. So does Dest. All this stuff, like,
yeah,
I fully agree.
There's a lot there that's needed, I guess. So yeah, okay. But do you want to go into your next pick, Paul?
Yeah, I think. My next is kind of a baby eagle that I think both of us would agree we need to see more production from, and at a level that we know he can be at, but he hasn't really produced at, but has been very close to producing at. And that person is Brendan Aronson.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And I think Fulham is the perfect home for him.
Okay, there were reports that came out today that
there were reports
Bundesliga clubs interested.
Union Berlin.
Yeah, and then there was
I saw that one.
I can't remember what the other club was. There was might have been Leipzig or something. Leipzig would be a good fit. It would
Leipzig
be in that
makes
Red
a lot
Bull
of
family.
sense for him. It's comfortable.
Yeah. Okay, so why do you think Aronson to Fulham? What excites you about that?
So one of the main things about Brendan Aronson is I don't think he's ever going to be a guy that produces 20 goals, 10 assists, that kind of material. But I think he's somebody that's viable at a top club because his work rate, the way he presses, the way he creates for other people, if you pair him with a striker like Mitrovic, he is going to absolutely thrive.
Yeah.
And if you play him in the right role, like I'm not saying he needs to be an out-and-out winger, but as maybe a inverted cam or maybe as a winger that inverts inside, that kind of does a little tracking back on defense with somebody else going forward on the other side.
Right.
I think he could absolutely just be himself. And I think that's the main thing we saw with him at Leeds is that he started off the year extremely well. Like he was
top of the Premier, not top.
Dude,
he was in the top 5 of chances created for the first 10 weeks or so. And that's what happens when you play with players who are out of form.
Yeah.
They struggle with fitness. You know, it's going to drag his game. He should have had at least 5, 6, 7 assists in that first 10 weeks.
Yeah, that's what happens when you play with Patrick Bamford. But like you said, like the main thing is, I mean, what he put on the field for Leeds in the beginning was a level that I think he can easily reach again in the right team. And for him, really, it's about confidence. And he's kind of on the periphery right now of the U.S. Like, he doesn't have a locked-in starting spot. He doesn't have a blah, blah, blah. But he has the ability and the work ethic, I think, to really work into this team by 2026. And he has to solidify a home. And it has really, to me, like, at this point with the U.S. and, like, the depth that we have, if you want to secure a top spot, like literally a starting spot in this U.S. team, you have to be at a top level and you have to produce, which is awesome as a U.S. fan to say that, but you really have to, you know?
You do, right? And in thinking about where Aronson struggled this past season for Leeds, he made a move from a non-top 5 league to the Premier League, one of the roughest, fastest paced games in the entire football,
physicality,
right? The physicality. So what I'm saying here is, you saw that confidence wane as he was growing into his time in the Premier League, and I think that comes from a lack of strength, and that's something that's going to come with time. I mean, he's still young, and progressively over the season, you could kind of see his body filling out a little bit more. I think that's something they were really trying to work on with him.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And that's something we need to watch going into the next season. Like, if he comes back, just just jacked,
Captain America type of shit,
right?
He
like,
went in the little experiment tube and came out as Steve Rogers.
No, we don't want to see that, right? No, that's a little top heavy for,
I don't
for
know
this
though.
sport.
Like I feel like Brendan Aronson, if he came out looking like
Steve Rogers,
Jason Momoa kind of vibe, like he would absolutely just like rip it apart with the speed, IQ, work ethic. Like he would kill it, dude.
There's a lot there, but I do see the possibility of him coming into this next season in a Premier League club. Fulham would be great. I'd like that a lot. That would be a good fit for him. I think he could work his way into that starting 11. I see him as someone who, if he has a good start to the season, I think the sky's the limit, and he could work himself back in that conversation of, this is someone who needs to be starting for our starting 11. And kind of just increasing that inner squad competition within the USMNT pool. But I do hope that move to Fulham works out. I think it is on a loan basis, but even that, like, I would love, and I think it'd be a good fit for him. I would really like to see that.
Yeah, and a little aspect we haven't talked about is, I mean, I think we always don't really discuss this, but like the human aspect of moving to a new club, being around new people, with Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson there, which hopefully Anthony Robinson is there. I hope he really doesn't move anywhere else unless it's Newcastle, because he would fit very well there. But if it's not there, if both of them are there, I think Aaron's it would be a very comfortable move for him, and he could kind of settle in, get his legs under him, and do what he does. And I think it would exceed expectations beyond belief, really.
Yeah, I see him growing into that position really nicely at Fulham. So fingers crossed over here. We'll try to make that happen on our end, but there's not too much we can do.
Yeah, we'll really push for it. We'll use all our connections and assets to make Brendan Aronson go to Fulham.
So just remember, if it does happen, it was Top Bins with Twins.
Yeah,
we are responsible for that transfer.
Tag us on Twitter or whatever social media.
If it doesn't happen,
we move to.
If it doesn't happen, you can believe that we don't have any sway. We don't have any connections. If it happens, you better believe that we're taking credit for that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Luke,
but,
do you have another one you want to shout out, or are we all good?
I think that's gonna wrap us. We've been going for a while now, so
this is
probably
easily our longest podcast to date. But
yeah,
real quick,
wrap here.
I just want to hear your 20-second elevator thoughts on Cristiano Pulisic to AC Milan.
I'm a fan of the move, frankly. I think I've seen, obviously Leao's there, so he's locked down the left side. Pulisic could maybe be playing in that inner channel role as maybe 10 or so.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could be playing on the right. From what I've seen, it doesn't look like they have a lot of depth on right wing. So it's nice that he has optionality there of where he'd slide in. If they're going to be spending, maybe £20 million, maybe 15, who knows what they'll end up agreeing upon. I think it'd be a great move for him. I like it.
I agree. I think it's kind of maybe a 2-year stint, really. I think Pulisic wants to be back in the Premier League eventually and just be himself in that league. But I think AC Milan is a good... It's almost honestly moving parallel to what Chelsea is in Serie A. And he's going to... I think he'll have a lot of joy and happiness in that league from his role.
I see it as a good way for him to kind of reinvigorate his career, find that, not to ruin, we're about to release an article on this on our blog.
Spoilers.
That, will come out very soon on in an exciting way, right? That's all I'll say. But we want him to find that joy. We want him to find that, really just being on the pitch, enjoying being on the field with his teammates.
Yes. Just be
and
happy,
have it not be with his USMNT, team. We know he loves that. We know he enjoys playing with those players, but we want him to find that somewhere else. Yeah, and that will 100%. Allow him to grow, raise his ceiling back to where we all know he can reach. And then, maybe later make that move back to the Premier League and just fucking tear it up.
Yeah, and as he will. He
bring
will one day.
Bring back that ethos of lockdown Pulisic that we all know is there.
Yeah.
And just want to see to come back. We want that bright, attacking, lively player that we all know and love.
The right form and the right club, man. Just like everybody else.
Exactly. All right, Paul, well, you want to sign us off for this one?
Yeah, dude. Honestly, it's been really fun. I think the FPL aspect really, like I was talking about it, has made me very excited to dive deep and really do research and figure out where we want to go this year. Because there's been a lot of change. There's been a lot of pieces moving. FPL itself is moving, so we're gonna see what happens, and we'll be here for the updates for everybody. Whether it's Twitter, whether it's Instagram, whether it's a new social media. We'll be there, and I'm really excited to share it with everybody,
Me too. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode. It's been a lot of fun, and we look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you through our next podcast.
Also, if you still have my number and you're listening, text me Baby Eagles, and we'll enter in a poll for $5.
Ooh, that sounds like fun.
All right.